Kieran McGovern here, Boxing Bants Ireland, and I'm really honoured and happy and delighted to be joined by an absolute legend of the sport and legend of the sport locally. Ireland's first ever professional female boxer, Deirdre Gogarty. First of all, Deirdre, how's life with yourself?
Oh, it's good. It's very busy. I've got a husband and a 6-year-old boy, and it's we're in the middle of packing up and moving, and so it's hectic, but it's good. It's very different than my boxing life. It's a lot of changes, but it's good. Life is full of change.
Yeah, I know the Raging Cajun gym closed down a couple of years ago after Bo passed away. Have you still been involved in the sport in any way, or have you taken a break from it?
I've actually taken a break from it, kind of completely. Bo being gone, I worked with him in the gym for 25 years, and it kind of just isn't the same without his energy. He was. You kind of would take an army of people to replace someone like Bo, and so I've kind of taken a break from it, but I've no doubt I'll be back into it one day. I miss the coaching and everything. But, life changes, and I've got a little son to take care of now and put him in soccer and taekwondo and different sports. But hopefully one day he'll take an interest in boxing, and I'll definitely be back in the gym coaching if he wants to box. I'm just not going to push him until he's ready. It's got to be his idea. So I'm trying to teach him a little bit at home, give him a bit of self-defense. But, he's only 6, so we'll see what happens.
So it's a very different world to what you were growing up in, because you were someone who, when you wanted to box, it was very much everyone was against it. The sanctioning bodies, everyone was against it, whereas your son's in an environment now where it's very much encouraged. Looking back now, your life in Drogheda growing up, what was it that kind of pulled you to boxing? Do you really have any idea why you were gravitating towards it?
Well, it's a very good question. It's a kind of a hard question to answer because I didn't know anybody in boxing. None of my family had any interest in boxing. I didn't even know a friend of the family that liked boxing. I didn't know a soul involved in boxing or really knew much about it. So I don't know where my love of boxing really came from. I just can say it's almost like something I was born with. And I remember the first time I saw a clip of Jack Dempsey. I was just totally captivated by him. And I loved the fact that he would fight people bigger than him because, I got bullied and picked on a lot. And so I really admired that about Jack Dempsey and everything he would go through to get to his fights. He walked through a desert one time to fight for a couple of dollars and walk back after the fight, and things like that really captured my imagination, and also, the idea that, boxing would allow you to get in with someone bigger than you, and through hard work and skill, you could defeat them. So that appealed to me too.
And I imagine back then in Ireland, back in the 80s, especially, you were speaking about how your parents were kind of like separating, and you were the youngest of 7 kids. That must have been very difficult for you at the time, and I suppose, was boxing kind of like an outlet for you?
Yes, definitely an outlet, because it was a whole different world, it was a completely different world. And I kept the two worlds very, very separate. I didn't want, I was afraid that somebody would stop me from wanting to box or being at the boxing gym. I was difficult enough to get in the gym. So I was always kind of worried that someone would step up and say, no, this isn't acceptable. It was very different back then. It was, it was kind of, people really wondered what I was doing, and kind of I would hear a couple of people say, oh, it's just a phase. And it would enrage me because I was so serious about it, but I couldn't tell anybody how serious I was about it because, you know, it's like, well, what are you going to do? Women can't box. You're not going to be allowed to box. Why are you wasting your time in a boxing gym? You know, it didn't make any sense. All I knew is I wanted to box, and I wanted to get the opportunity to box in a real match. And one day, hopefully there'd be a world title I could fight for, but at the time it just seemed impossible almost.
Am I right in saying one of the most inspirational moments for you in boxing was seeing Barry McGuigan fight, and you spoke to him after the fight, isn't that right?
Yeah, that was the game changer for me. I mean, I was already curious about boxing and fascinated about it, but once I saw him, there was no doubt in my mind I wanted to be a world champion. You know, he went out there, and you know, he wasn't the favorite really. I mean, he went out there and he just totally dominated, and it was just such a legendary night for Irish boxing that night. Mm-hmm. He won the world title, and I knew right then I wanted to be like him. It seemed impossible, but it wasn't going to stop me from trying.
The BUI, the Boxing Union of Ireland, they were the sanctioning body who gave it licenses in Ireland and still do, and obviously British Boxing Board and control the ones in the UK. At any point, did you actually apply for licenses? Was it once? Was it many times? Can you remember?
Well, it was mostly, you know, it was... No, to technically apply, it was just like I was just kind of told, well, you know, girls can't do that. It's like, you know, don't even bother applying because girls can't do that, you know. So there was certainly no encouragement. Well, go ahead and apply and we'll see. It was like, don't even waste your time. Mm-hmm. So, you know, this is back in the 90s, you know, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And, you know, it's... I mean, we put pressure on them, you know, mainly Pat McCormick, who was my coach in St. Saviour's in Dublin, you know, but it was kind of tabooed.
You know, because it wasn't really, nothing was sanctioned. And even when Katie even started on the first sanctioned bout, it was a nightmare trying to get a bout. Nightmare, like, as everyone knows the story. I used to put a headgear on, put a tie her hair up so she'd fight the boys. And it was. Do
you want to talk to us a little bit about how it came to the conclusion where you were basically in a tribunal with the BUI?
And today, as Jane has demonstrated, that they just can't simply just not permit us to fight simply because of our gender. So I initially contacted it was the Equal Opportunities Commission up here, and they said obviously with it being a different jurisdiction, I would have to make contact down there. So I contacted the Equality Authority, which was just newly established. I didn't really hold out an awful lot of hope, but they said yes, we'll definitely take the case on because it was something that was unusual for them. And basically it was a good case to highlight the work that they did. And basically they took the case on. I wouldn't have been able to fund it myself if they hadn't done that. And then we ended up in an industrial tribunal in Dublin.
And I'm right in saying you had applied to a lot of places to try to get fights, but you used to get like responses from things like mud wrestling along those lines. Like, what was that like for you?
Oh, it was just infuriating because, you know, at the time that stuff was very popular, and I didn't want to be confused with, you know, I wanted to try to, you know, take women's boxing and give it some dignity and have people take it seriously. And I think there was a big fear in, you know, the old school boxing people that we bring some kind of shame or something to it, you know, go out there pulling hair or slapping or something. So, you know, I took it very seriously and I wanted to bring dignity with me. But, you know, when all this stuff about, you know, topless boxing, mud wrestling was out there, I didn't want to be confused with that. So it was very infuriating when I'd get stuff back all from the States, saying we can offer this and that, and it wasn't serious boxing. That's what I was going for. So that was very frustrating.
And it's funny that the arguments that, as I'm sort of researching the PhD, the arguments that people use against boxing and against boxing organisations, and why they think that boxing really should no longer exist in the form it is, or it should be banned outright, was really the arguments that were being used by the boxing organisations against women. To say, like they did against Jane, that women shouldn't be allowed to be licensed because they're mentally unstable because of their periods and other things. It's just ludicrous at the end of the day. And it's just arguments that have been constantly just hashed again and just directed at women.
Now, not going to make you feel old, but my 30th birthday is the 25th of June, and when I was looking through the...
Well, you're a young pup. You're
so
young. I'm surprised you even heard of me.
And then I looked through the archives, and five days after I was born, although it wasn't sanctioned, it was the first bout between two females, which is between you and Anne-Marie Griffin. So this year is the 30th anniversary of that. And although it wasn't sanctioned, it wasn't under IBA rules, it wasn't a professional fight in terms of seen as by the BUI. It was the first fight between two women in this country. And
right.
Do you remember how that fight came about?
Yeah, I went on the Pat Kenny show, pleading to get a match, and then Jimmy Finn called me after the show and told me there was a girl down in Limerick, a kickboxer, who would, possibly be interested in doing a regular boxing match on a show that was coming up. PJ Bennis was her boxing coach, and luckily she was up for it, and we boxed.
Do you remember whereabouts it was in Limerick, wasn't it? Do you remember whereabouts it was, and was it like a boxing show in general, like an amateur boxing show, or what was it exactly?
No, it was a kickboxing show at the Shannon Arms in Limerick. It was an outdoor show, and all the other bouts were kickboxing. We were the only boxing match, and it was supposed to be an exhibition. So I wasn't expecting the bout to be actually scored by judges. So it was a really great surprise at the end when they actually announced me as the winner. So that was really wonderful.
And Anne-Marie was also a kickboxer like yourself.
She was, yeah.
Did you know Anne-Marie by any chance?
I didn't know. No, I'd seen her fight. She was more sort of low kick, Muay Thai and stuff. It was billed as an exhibition, but for obvious reasons they had to do that. It was an actual competitive fight, and you could see the gulf between Deidre and Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie came in, nothing on her feet, tie shorts on, and Deidre came in really looking to do the business. And I think it was the weather was atrocious, and to have it out and outdoors. Really, you take your chances having anything outdoors in this country, to be honest with you.
I imagine going into it, although you were really excited, you were probably nervous as well.
Yeah, I was very nervous, really more nervous about it being pulled than the fight itself. And I was too naive at the time to really be nervous about the fight. I was more excited, but the worst part, I'm sure most boxers will say, is, waiting on the fight to happen, the dressing room, but I was just so excited and nervous, and, and I made mistakes in the fight. I still think about, but my coach was super happy. He thought I boxed great, but I've been boxing for 4 years before I got that match, so sometimes you wait so long to get in there. You want to try to do so much in such a short time, but it was a great experience.
And that fight was really important, not only just for Irish boxing, but for you as well, because that was one of the tapes that Bo Wilford watched and saw the skill that you had and was prepared to take you on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he really didn't want to take me on. A friend of ours in London, Paddy Sauer, kind of put the pressure on Bo. And, you know, Bo always kind of tried to return favors. You know, he really he really believed in kind of loyalty to friends. So just as to return this favor to Paddy Sauer, he agreed to at least have a look at me. And I really think he really didn't want to mess with it. But when he saw the footage, he at least gave me the chance to come over, you know, and see what he could do.
Mm-hmm. Was that it after you, like when you saw that, when you took part in that fight and people were watching in the crowd, you were thinking, this is it, this is what I want to do until I retire. This is it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I really wanted to, you know, excite people with what women were capable of, you know, make it an exciting match and make people want to see it again, you know, and go in and really be aggressive and punch hard and you know, be exciting, you know, that was really important to me. And a lot of times it was to my detriment in later fights when I should have boxed. I used to like to go toe to toe and I should have just boxed. But, you know, the important thing is to get people in there watching. So that was what I was thinking.
What was it like? The people like you and Jane Cage, what was it, no matter how many setbacks you had, what was it that made you just keep going? Like a lot of people wouldn't have done that.
Right. Well, I can't speak for Jane, but I just know for me, it's almost like you dig a hole so deep, there's no turning around, you know. I mean, I had given up so much. I mean, I gave up my life in Ireland. I love Ireland. I'm still a huge piece of my heart is still in Ireland. I mean, when I watch footage of Ireland, I still feel homesick, believe it or not. So that was a huge sacrifice, leaving friends, family, and going all the way to the States to someone I didn't even know. So, you know, after you pulled your whole life up and moved halfway around the world, there is no turning around. I mean, I have to come home with a world title. Otherwise it's a massive failure. So, you know, for me, it was the title validated every drop of sweat and blood I put into
them times when Deirdre fought and then when Katie fought at the start, there wasn't the strength in depth for the girls, but the people who were there, they had that fire in the belly. The girls that were there, and they were up there. They were all top level. There was no crap girls. They were all good because nobody wanted them in the clubs, so they had to have this little mad mindset to stay in the clubs and box, and they had to compete with the lads. They were thrown in with lads, so the quality of them was up there. Like Christy Martin's quality was up there, Jerry was up there, and what was a girl from Holland, Riker, was it?
Yeah.
Lucia Riker. Yeah. They were brilliant.
The world title obviously was what you wanted, but would your fight against Christy Martin be right up there? That was really the fight. Like she said a couple of weeks ago, she was on a podcast and she said that was the fight that changed that changed women's boxing forever. To you, was that almost just as important as the world title?
It is as important to women's boxing. I mean, I wish I was remembered more for winning the world title than for losing that fight. But, you know, that's just an ego thing. I mean, it was a great fight for women's boxing. Is there things I'd go back and change about the fight? Sure. But I mean, I always took my losses very, very hard. But, you know, I'm glad the fight happened. I'm glad Bo had the faith in me to put me in a match like that, because a lot of people told me right to my face it would be madness to fight Christy Martin. Mm-hmm. So, but, you know, going back to Jack Dempsey, he fought people bigger than him. So, you know, I didn't really think of that as a problem, you know. I always had the mindset, I'll fight whoever they'll put me in the ring with. It didn't matter. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there's things I would change about the fight if I could fight again. But, you know, I'm glad it was a great fight for women's boxing. At the time, you know, I mean, me and Christy, we knew women could fight like that. It was no surprise to us. We were kind of taken aback that everyone else was so surprised how good it was. So, but I'm glad it happened.
Thought, when Deidre fought Christy, man, two women fight, turn this off. Then when they seen the skill level of him, and I think Tyson made a great comment about him as well. If I wish I had that skill level himself, I think I remember him saying something like that about it. And I think Deirdre gave away a stone, did she, in weight in that fight? Yeah. See, again, there was no strength in depth
and
there.
Even through, like, you look at the time, there was 3, well, now 4 main belts. But at the time, they didn't actually have any rankings for women or anything like that. I know Christy was actually given a WC belt after that. But were you ever thinking to yourself, am I going to get... because weight classes were difficult for you. I remember that you had to fight people a lot bigger than you. Were you ever worrying, like, oh, is there going to be a belt available for me for a world title?
Right. I was worried about that. I mean, they didn't even keep records back then. I mean, I remember Jerry Callan, I don't know if he still does, but he used to do the boxing yearbook every year with all the records in it. And he included me in the yearbook, and I was just blown. I mean, to me, I was like, man, my record is in a yearbook. I mean, I was just thrilled just to see my record in a yearbook. It may not have been complete, you know, but it was in our yearbook. So, you know, like even record keeping wasn't even done on women. So once there was a belt, I mean, it just like, oh, you know, there's really something to fight for, something to hold in my hands one day.
When you look back since you've retired, like you look at the women's scene now, I think there's about 6 professional female boxers in Ireland at the moment, and you know, in this day and age, it's much more simpler for the turnover. They apply for the license, they get, you know, the BUI will watch them spar, see if they're good enough, and then that's kind of it. Do you feel like you played a massive part in that, in the platform now for women, especially even like Katie and other women who maybe didn't have a massive amateur career, just like you didn't have an amateur career at the time, but they're still able to turn over and become professionals? Do you feel a sense of pride, like that you helped build that?
Well, I hope I have helped, and if not, I mean, I'm just thrilled to see that they have the opportunities now, because I kind of feel like, you know, if all the stuff I went through to do what I did, and women were still having to go through all that stuff now, it would almost feel like I didn't break down any door, you know.
To me, I suppose if anything comes out of it, if it has made pathway easier for other girls, then, you know, that's not a small achievement and something I have to be proud of. It's tinged with sadness because I was never able to achieve what I really wanted to achieve in my own career, but you can't have it always, you know. That's just the way
you know, it's, you know, it's credit to them for doing what they do. I don't take any credit. You still have to have the heart and courage to get in a boxing ring, but you know, I hope it helped, at least help make their path a little less frustrating, and you know, more opportunities, and to harness their talent from a younger age.
If you had a choice now, would you turn over now, or would you not change anything and be the Deirdre Gogarty from the 90s and go through what you went through?
Well, that's a really good question. You know, that some people say, you know, they go through life and they don't have any regrets. I would change every one of my losses to a win. But anyway, that's all 2020. But I mean, it was hard. I don't know if, you know, I had so much drive then. The drive is really what pushed me through all the hardships and the setbacks, because I had massive setbacks. So, you know, the gift of drive is a real gift to have. And, you know, now I don't, you know, to think back and having to go through all that again, I guess if, you know, if I had the drive, I would do it all over again, because you do whatever it takes to be a world champion, no matter what that looks like.
It's interesting, because Jane was kind of different. She said she kind of regrets being the first one. You know, she said she still kind of affects her now, but that's interesting. But a couple more questions for you. Do you think you'll ever come back, or do you think that your life is now set out in the US?
Well, that's a good question. You know, a big part of me always kind of dreamt of going back to Ireland. You know, I kind of always picture myself as a little old lady living in a little cottage in Wicklow, going to visit with my sisters or going for a walk, you know. But I have a husband here and a 6-year-old son now. So certainly not in the near future, but maybe one day. And I certainly want to bring my son to Ireland. I want him to learn about Ireland and, you know, and really, you know, appreciate the whole Irish culture he comes from. And I really think he will. He loves anything about Ireland. So we may just be visitors for a while, but who knows? Maybe one day we'll go back and live there.
The last question I'm going to say to you. So in the town, I was only actually driving past it today, but I don't know if you remember it, in the town of Drogheda, there's a statue of Tony Byrne, Sox Byrne, and
right.
He obviously was a bronze medalist. And I was only thinking the other day, you're the first professional to ever come out of this area, and obviously the first ever female professional boxer from the country, world title holder
right.
from this area. Would it be a massive honor for you if that ever happened, to have a statue next to Sox Byrne?
Oh God, yeah. Oh, that would be massive. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be huge. I mean, I knew Sox. He would come and visit the gym when I first started boxing. Very nice man. And, you know, I remember his statue going up and everything, and, you know, how honored he was. Oh, yeah, that would be that would make me feel like just, you know, real recognition, real, because sometimes you kind of feel like people forget, you know. And yeah, that would be a mind blower, all right.
Well, I think Deirdre I think Deirdre definitely does, you know, at the end of the day, because I mean she took that step in 1991, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Basically, when it was unheard of, you know, even before myself, before Jane, before Katie. So she really was that true trailblazer, and took the flak along with that. And basically held firm. She obviously had the support of her coach as well, and at the end of the day, that does help when you have somebody there helping you. Yeah, so at the end of the day, you know, it would be nice if she did have the recognition.
There will be a day, I presume, it when Katie has her own statue in the country. I don't see why that wouldn't be. Sox Byrne has one in Drogheda. Obviously won a Olympic medal when he fought for Ireland in 1956. Deirdre's from our part of the country, and obviously on the anniversary, we would feel that it'd be fitting that she would have a statue. Was that something that you would agree with?
Oh, most definitely, you know. If it wasn't like for people like Deirdre, Katie, Christy Martin, Lucy O'Reilly, all these, there wouldn't be in women's boxing, you know. And then, you know, it's hard to be the leader in these things, and she definitely deserves a statue there, you know. And it's sad that she didn't ever had a chance to represent Ireland in boxing, you know. It's actually sad when you think about it, when you see how the girls are doing it now, you know.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Deirdre, the pride I feel when people talk about you is something huge. I interview boxers all around the country, but people mention your name, it's massive pride to me. And even at that, even the recognition that Katie always gives you, you know, like Katie was interviewed a couple of weeks ago before her fight with Natasha Jonas, and they said, who the people you look up to? And the first person she said was you. She said Deirdre Gogarty, the person that broke down boundaries.
Deirdre boxed out St. Saviour's, and I boxed out St. Saviour's as well, so I knew Deirdre from St. Saviour's. Right, okay. Boxing club, Pat McCormick and John McCormick, you know, two great coaches. So I knew Deirdre from then. Then Kay started getting interested, and Kay actually wrote to Deirdre, and then I was speaking to Deirdre, and then we went over to her house there, Amar's house in Sandymount. It was Sandymount, and we had a cup of coffee with her, and she was talking to Katie about. Kate was, I think she was only about 12 or 13. And then they were meant to spar then. I think Katie was 15. And I think Deirdre had a busted eardrum. Then Deirdre was injured, so he never happened. But, you know, Deirdre was great, you know. Well, too far ahead of
itself give you this feel of recognition for what you did.
Yeah, it definitely makes me feel good because, you know, when I met Katie and she was just a young girl, I think she was only about 12 or 13 maybe. And I could see the passion in her, and I really just wanted to encourage her because I know how discouraging it could be. You know, I could have given up a million times, and I really wanted to, you know, see her fulfill her dream because it was hard back then. You know, people forget, even for Katie, she couldn't get fights when she was young. You know, it was very frustrating. So, you know, I wanted her to try to stick it out and stay with it until it got to the point where she could compete in amateurs, and it all worked out beautifully for her. So that's wonderful to see.
So last thing I'll say to you, Deirdre, on the 30th of June, are you going to take out your old tape and have a watch of that fight?
Well, every time I watch my fights, I criticize myself, so I probably won't torture myself like that. Yeah, so I'm pretty hard on myself. I don't like to watch my fights at all.
Really?
In fact, some of them I haven't watched. Oh, I don't. I pick myself apart on what I should have done and should have done better and didn't throw enough body shots and all this, you know. So, you know, so but anyway, it is what it is. Yeah,
that's funny because Ryan Burnett, two-time world champion from Belfast, I'm sure you know, he was interviewed last week and he said the same thing. He said, I never watch my fights. I hate watching them because every time I watch it, I just think, oh my God, you are useless. You know, you know.
I can understand. Yeah, it's frustrating, you know. I think the main thing I'd go back and change is my confidence level. I had very low confidence. You know, I was very anxious in the ring. I look at Katie and she looks so relaxed, you know, and I think that's, you know, I was almost over anxious to prove myself all the time instead of relaxing and you know, really performing at my best. So, but you know, what are you going to do? Sometimes it takes getting to 51 before you get a bit of wisdom in you, you know.
Well, Deirdre, look, can I just say it's been an absolute honour and a pleasure, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, thanks for thinking about me, and sorry I was a bit hard to track down, but I'm glad I got to talk to you.
No. Look, privilege as always, but thanks very much, Deirdre, and I wish you all the best.
Okay, sounds good, Kieran. Thank you.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you.